Welcome to Holy Matrimony.
A podcast where we discuss my journey into the world of professional wrestling.
And each week, I'm going to guide you through my ultimate obsession.
All right, well, let's get this going. We're going to get all of the details out of the way because we have a pretty fun, history lesson today.
Yep.
So, new episodes release every Thursday. You can follow us on social media so you can stay up to date and watch some fun little reels and stuff we've been doing. So, you can follow us on X and Instagram at Holy Matrimony. That's HOLYMATCHRIMONY. You can also follow us on TikTok at holy.matrimony. Some of you are watching us on YouTube. So if you would like to do that as well, our YouTube channel is Holy Matrimony Podcast. So youtube.com/@holymatrimony. And you can find the podcast itself, just the audio version, on most of the major podcast players.
Yeah. Please like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear from you. It really helps us out. Let us know what you're thinking, and we really appreciate it.
We sure do.
So we should get into today's episode.
We talked a little bit about it last week, but you've left me hanging on some of the questions I have.
Yes. So I think it's a good time to talk about what we're going to be talking about today, which is factions or
Staples.
stables. Yep.
Staples, you know?
Yes, not staples, like the office equipment, the supplies. Stables, or groups, as
I think
you
you're
call
saying
them.
the same thing.
Okay, well, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not. Stable, like you put horses in?
Yeah, staple. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to ignore that one. But I think it's a good time to talk about this.
Yes, because I'm seeing a lot of what I call groups.
Yes.
And I guess if I'm going to be doing a podcast about wrestling, I should probably use the correct terminology, or at least understand what I'm talking about.
Yes. So, in wrestling, we call groups a faction or a stable. There is, not really a technical difference between the two. I've done some research and, there's opinions online as to what the difference between a faction and a stable is. There's not really a difference. The general consensus is kind of that factions will have more people in them.
Okay.
It may not be as deliberate, right? So, not everybody necessarily has a role, or they're kind of a little more open, freeing. But there's really not a difference. You can kind of use interchangeable, stable or faction.
Yeah, because if I was thinking bigger groups, I would call them a stable. Because have you seen how big stables are? They're like huge. So like faction, I would say flip those, you know?
Okay, we're not talking about a stable where you put horses in.
But like the word, it's like English,
Okay.
But with
So,
it not having a difference, I will also accept that.
okay. Well, thank you for accepting something that's been used for years now. I really appreciate it.
But I mean, you see where it's confused. So like, would I sound stupid if I just called them all factions?
No.
But like you say that, but would like wrestling fans be like, no, that's clearly a stable?
I don't think so, especially when you look up certain what I would call factions and the Wikipedia entrance it says stable on it. I don't think it really matters.
If I kept calling them groups, would I be wrong?
No, I don't think anybody would fault you for that.
Okay.
I mean, you are wrong, but I don't think anybody would say you're wrong.
But like, wouldn't they though? Like somebody would, because you'll tell me I'm wrong. So somebody's gonna be like, well, you're clearly not like that into wrestling if you called it a group.
I mean, you just aren't using the lingo.
But like, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, I will decide maybe after this conversation if I'm gonna keep calling them groups or if I'll call them faction. I'm really not gonna say staple because I think it's really confusing. Staple thing.
I don't think it's that confusing.
We'll decide at the end.
I don't think it's that hard to delineate from an office supply to a group of wrestlers.
Yeah, but like if you say it too fast, it's like, wait, is she saying a staple? Like it's definitely not a staple. So I think factions is probably just clearer. The clearest is a group, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, moving on from this whole stable debate. Groups, factions. There's a few of them in WWE right now, and you like actually most of them.
I feel like, but is there like a few or is there like a lot?
I mean, I feel like right now in WWE there's a lot.
Okay.
But there's a few bigger ones, like, or at
Mm-hmm.
least again, a few that you really like.
Oh, well, yeah. I don't know if that's like on purpose. Well, I don't know because sometimes I like well, I don't know. I don't think there's one that I like the whole group necessarily. I'm sorry, faction, except maybe the smaller ones, but like the big ones I like the bloodline. Obviously, I'm pretty upset with some of the members right now.
Right, but you like the whole all members at first.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, is that pretty normal to be like, oh, like, does anybody just, especially wrestling fans, are they like, no, I like this faction, or do they like it because some of the people in it?
Um, I think it just depends on what it is, and we'll talk about quite a few of them
Okay.
and go through here. I do think it depends. Sometimes it is you like a certain member or two in it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're like, I kind of like the whole vibe of the faction. I like the whole what they're about.
Yeah, because I feel like that's the bloodline for me. It's the whole vibe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even with their feuds. I mean, honestly, they keep me going. Okay.
Yes,
But like Judgment Day is another one that I currently like. And it's like, who do I really like from Judgment Day? Like one
just
person?
Damian Priest.
I mean, no, I like Dom too. Okay. Like Dom's fun. So it's like, but the majority, I'm like, eh.
Right.
So that's just why I was wondering, like, is that what's more normal?
I think that's pretty normal, especially in WWE. Right. We'll get into some factions from other places that may be a little different,
Okay.
but I definitely think that's more normal.
Okay. I'm trying to be normal in this world,
I mean,
you
I don't
know?
think that, I mean, you're a wrestling fan now. I don't know if there is a normal.
Well, I mean, I think there's wrestling fans who would disagree, but we'll find out.
We'll find out.
I mean, comment, let me know.
Yeah, let's hear your takes on what Bella should start liking and not liking.
And what I should call it,
Yes,
group or faction
it's stable.
or a staple, either one.
Um, so with the current groups, I'm gonna call them groups for you.
Thank you.
Right now, Judgment Day, Bloodline. I think another
Hmm.
one you like is Imperium.
Oh, I love
Right.
Imperium.
I think the important thing to think about when you think about a faction in wrestling is they generally have a purpose, right?
Okay.
They're created with a purpose. And as we go through and I'll talk about some of these, they're all going to have different purposes, right? But the example of Bloodline, what's their purpose? Well, the purpose is to, you know, be the dominant family of wrestling.
Yeah, they are like the family,
Right.
right?
Somebody like Imperium kind of created more to, help Gunther retain his title, right? Or help him establish his reign as champion, right? Like their members will have tag team matches and stuff, but they
Hmm.
were never really like that's not the focus. Is they had them have a tag team match.
Yeah, they're definitely like his like I don't even want to say sidekick, like his like background people, his goons maybe.
Right. His goons, yeah, his
But I love it.
yeah,
Their
right.
vibe is great.
And then Judgment Day, I mean, they say they don't really have a leader, right? But they kind of do. So again, as we go through that, like a faction's has a purpose. It's just, what the purpose is sometimes a little murky or a little muddy.
Okay. And see, this is stuff I did not look that deep. I was
Right.
just like, oh, they have like a look, a vibe. I didn't know
Mhm.
they had a purpose. So
I mean,
yeah.
that generally why else would you join a group if there's not a purpose to joining?
Oh, this is not a good question for me because in wrestling, I'm like, oh, they just joined it because it's cool. Like, or it's like that's the cool group, or that's like what fits their vibe. So, I'm learning.
They're learning. Yep. But again, there's been a ton of groups. I mean, there's even other groups we haven't talked about, right? The LWO,
Hmm.
Legato. I'm not going to get into all those. I think there's a lot of history, especially in Lucha, of there being different factions and groups that I'm not super familiar with.
Okay.
So I think the interesting piece that I want to get into is really talking about Judgment Day and Bloodline and who was one of the main foes against them within the last year. It was Cody.
Yeah, Cody Rhodes like is a single. Well, because is Cody in a faction? Not
He's
right now.
not
Okay.
currently, no. But also thinking about Cody's opponent coming up, AJ Styles,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the reason I bring up Judgment Day, Bloodline, Cody, AJ, is there's a connection with the faction between them.
Okay.
That's not through WWE.
Okay.
So Cody Rhodes, AJ Styles, Finn Balor of the Judgment Day,
Oh.
and now Tama Tonga of Bloodline were all in a group called Bullet Club.
Okay. Which I've seen your shirt.
You see my
You've
shirt?
had multiple Bullet
Bullet
Club
Club
shirts.
shirts.
Yes.
Yes. So Bullet Club was not associated with WWE.
Okay.
It was started in New Japan Pro
Okay.
Wrestling.
Like Mexico, New Mexico, or there's no like old Japan and New Japan.
There's not no No, New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Is it like stand for something, or is it just like the new? Or no, it's just New Japan.
It's called New Japan Pro Wrestling. That's the whole
Oh,
title of
okay.
the group,
Well,
of
I
the
didn't know
company.
like NEW could
Oh,
stand for something.
no, just
Okay.
New Japan Pro Wrestling is the title of the biggest pro wrestling organization in Japan.
Okay. And no, I'm not watching that anytime soon, guys. I have a lot to catch up on
No, I
already.
can't even get her to watch NXT. She won't definitely won't get her to watch New Japan.
Yeah, we'll see one day.
One day, I think I can get you there, based on who you like. But anyways, so New Japan,
Mm-hmm.
that there's a group of pro wrestlers, led by Finn Balor. That was not his name back then, but
He
just
was the leader?
he started the Bullet Club.
Finn?
Finn Balor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
see something you
Okay.
didn't know, right?
No.
Yes.
Like of
So,
all those people, he was? That's
mm-hmm,
crazy. Okay.
mm-hmm. So he started Bullet Club in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and at the time, it was a group of wrestlers who were not Japanese. So it was like their first group of foreign wrestlers to them.
Okay.
So obviously Finn's Irish. They had a couple Americans join, right? So it was this group of non-Japanese wrestlers that came in as bad guys.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Cody's a bad guy. All right.
Oh, so we'll get there. So this is not Cody was not part of it at this time.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Yes. So eventually, through um, different means, there's been a lot of different people in the group, and I may not be getting this history exactly right because I don't watch New Japan that often, right? But eventually, Tama Tonga and his partner joined Bullet Club. So
Okay.
that's where that connection comes in. So Tama Tonga was a part of Bullet Club from
Mm-hmm.
almost the beginning, if not the beginning.
Okay.
So Finn is the leader. When Finn agrees to join WWE, he gets kicked out of Bullet Club.
Oh, well, yeah, traitor,
Yeah, and he gets jumped out essentially. And the leader then becomes AJ Styles.
Oh, still
So
not Cody.
still
Okay.
not Cody. No, Cody's not there. Cody's not part of this at all yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep. So he's not even part of Bullet
Jeez.
Club yet. So later, about a year later, when AJ Styles agrees to go to WWE,
Traitor.
he also has to get kicked out of Bullet Club, and he gets kicked out by somebody who you've heard the name before, but you have no. I don't think you've ever seen. Could even point them out. But he gets replaced as the leader by Kenny Omega.
Which you've talked about, but I
Yes,
have no idea who this is.
correct. So at this time, Bullet Club becomes a phenom. It's already really big in Japan, but it becomes like a phenomena in the United States, like indie wrestling scene,
Okay.
because you have Kenny Omega who becomes the leader, along with like his kind of American group of the Young Bucks, their brother tag team, and they really kind of bring Bullet Club, help bring it into America. They go to all these little promotions and they add American members, and it's like through this time that Cody Rhodes partially joins Bullet Club as well.
Okay.
So Cody Rhodes at the time had left WWE the first time. He joins Bullet Club, and again, they essentially take Bullet Club to new heights in the states.
Okay.
From there, there's a lot of different members of Bullet Club and things like that, right? Um, Cody Rhodes was never really the leader of Bullet Club, but he was a prominent member, especially in the United States,
Obviously.
right? So again, very interesting that right now in WWE we have four top storylines with four former Bullet Club members.
So what you're trying to say is like Bullet Club was like elite and super cool and like the best because then they all just get to come to WWE. Is that what you're trying? Like,
I mean,
I don't know if that's what you're trying to say, but it seems like you're like really fangirling over Bullet Club.
kind of. You also said the word elite, so members of Bullet Club, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, started their own internal group called The Elite, and they then created All Elite Wrestling.
So you're pretty much saying that even though I know nothing about this, I hit that spot on.
Pretty much, pretty
Nice.
much. I would say that, right? Bullet Club's also famous for not creating this, but really bringing to prominence the Too Sweet, which you've seen me do a ton of times. Too Sweet.
You, for years, you never told me what it was.
Oh,
You're just like, oh, give me Too Sweet. And
Too,
I think I fell for it the first time because I was like, okay, what is that? And you were like, I got you to do like a wrestling thing.
yes.
And then like it would just be
Too,
anytime
too
during the
sweet
day.
me. Too Sweet me.
Not yet. I need to know if I like this. It'd just be all the time, anytime, random, like there was no rhyme or reason. And I just refused to do it.
Still to this day, you refuse to do it.
Well, because you didn't explain to me what it was. I only knew because when Cody would come out, sometimes people do that. I'm like, oh, wait, that's that thing you did. And you're like, yeah, that's from him. And I'm like, well, you didn't explain this to me.
I didn't explain this
But
to you.
also, like, what if I don't want to do it if I'm not like a fan of the group?
But you just heard how good they were.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know. Like, how do they fall apart? Is there something bad about it? I'm not just gonna do it to do it.
Fine. Well, maybe I'll convince you. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see at the end. There's a lot of things we're gonna see at the end.
There's a lot of things we're going to have to see at the end for. So that's Bullet Club in a nutshell. Again, there's a lot more to it, a lot more intricacies. They are still running as a faction in New Japan, but members
Oh.
have changed a lot. You know, um,
Well, obviously they lost all their members.
yes, there's a offshoot group in AEW that runs as Bullet Club Gold. Like, there's a lot of different things, but for our purposes, those are kind of the four that I really wanted to focus on.
Well, yeah, because they're all like coming back together. Not together, but they're like all in this world now together.
Yes,
Just separate.
yes, but I think the one point I want to hit on is so including like the two suite that I just showed you.
Mm-hmm.
They borrowed a lot of ideas from a group that was before them. So that group is a group you've also heard of, I think, but probably don't know anything about, called the NWO.
Yes, I mean, obviously, like the LWO. I'm assuming NWO came first.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's like something you just see.
You've seen the shirts and stuff, the black and white shirts that say NWO on it and stuff like that.
Yes.
So the NWO stands for New World Order.
Which I did know that actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I should have asked you what it stood for.
Yeah, but you've told me that's why. And it
Yes.
also like they say sometimes.
Yes.
So
that was a group that was started in WCW. So in the 90s, WWE's biggest competition was WCW.
I mean, real quick, how many like other wrestling companies instead of like stuff are you going to talk about? Because I can't keep like each week you just throw out more. Like at this point, you could just be making it up.
I could be. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot. You're lucky that we at this time we were like 4, so I didn't really watch a lot of this stuff. So
I mean, I don't for most things, but I will encourage a monopoly here and say that WWE should just take it all over.
I mean, they kind of did. They kind of did, and
Yeah, because I mean, I can't keep up.
yeah, in the early 2000s, they kind of did. So WCW was the biggest competition to WWE at the time.
Okay.
They were owned by Ted Turner, Turner Broadcasting, TBS, TNT, all that. So they're owned by him, and they were trying to compete with WWE, and they needed to bring in some kind of viewership and the younger demographic. So they brought in 2 ex-WWE guys who literally contract ended with WWE, and they jumped ship straight over to WCW for a lot more money.
Nice.
So they brought in Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, who I know you've heard of at least.
I think you've said Kevin Nash. I've never heard of just like Scott Hall.
So Scott Hall, that's his real name, wrestled in WWE as Razor Ramon.
You're trying to trick me now. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
So when he goes to WCW, he has to use his real name. So he's Scott Hall.
Wait, Razor Ramon's name
It's
is
Scott Hall.
Scott Hall.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, I would change that too, you know?
Razor Ramon's a cooler name for sure, right?
Well, it just fits more like, oh yeah, I'm wrestling Scott today,
Yeah.
you know?
It's Scott Hall.
And he like looked like Razor Ramon. Yeah. I get it.
So Scott Hall and Kevin Nash
Okay.
are good friends.
Which is his actual name?
Kevin Nash, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
He wrestled in WWE as Diesel.
And I see. I've heard Diesel too.
Yes.
Yeah. WWE has the market on names then.
Yes,
Okay, cool.
for sure. At least in this time. So
Okay.
they're good friends in real life.
Mm-hmm.
In WWE. They both go to WCW.
Mhm.
And the leader of WCW helps think of this group. And the storyline is supposed to be essentially like this invasion of WWE guys taking over WCW.
So they're like a new order.
A new world order. And before their debut, they tease, well, there's a third man, right? The 2 of us, there's a third man. Who's the third man going to be? And it's teased a lot. Nobody knows. Well, it ends up being the biggest good guy, and they're bad guys at this time, right? They're heels. So it's going to be the biggest face, the biggest good guy they have. Hulk Hogan turns and joins them in the NWO.
So, back up, okay? You've been getting a lot of predictions right lately.
I have been.
So, if during this time you were as into, or were you as into it?
I mean, this was 1997,
Just
so I
kidding.
would have been
You
4.
were like, yeah, you were like a kid. Anyway, but if in that time, would you have guessed it was Hulk Hogan?
I mean, based on everything I've seen since, probably not. It seems like almost nobody would have suspected that because he was like the biggest good guy
Mm-hmm.
at the time. But I mean, I've been getting a lot of predictions right, so I probably would have.
Yeah, we're tallying up your predictions. So it's pretty impressive. So that's what I was saying. Like so this wasn't something like wrestling fans like were already kind of, oh, we know. I mean, obviously social media wasn't around, so that
Right.
probably helps a lot. But they were like, like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I mean, there's accounts that like Hulk Hogan wasn't even sure that he was gonna do it until that like the day it happened because he didn't really want to be a bad guy. But there's varying accounts if that's even true or not.
Okay.
So I don't really know.
So they really brought it then.
Yes.
Cool.
So the NWO and that's the origin of actually the Too Sweet. So Scott Hall and Kevin Nash would do that on their own. Like there was their thing. So they really started it, but it wasn't really done on TV. So that's where the Bullet Club brings it to TV.
Oh.
That was more done backstage. That was like their own kind of little friendly handshake.
So they stole it.
Borrowed it.
No, stole it, made it big for them, and never gave them the credit.
I mean, they've credited it in interviews and stuff.
Later. So I'm definitely not doing it because I'm not all about stealing something from someone else.
Okay, well, that's not what this is about.
I'm just saying, you asked me if I was going to do it, and now knowing the background, not so sure.
So the NWO, we're gonna move on,
Mm-hmm.
is at this time becomes like the biggest, hottest group, hottest faction, right?
Which, in a way, you'll tell me in a second. It's still kind of it. I mean, the NWO is everywhere.
Yeah, it's culturally impactful for sure.
Like, you can't see one wrestling show without somebody with an NWO shirt. I mean, if you go on like WWE Shop, it's like always up there somewhere.
Yes. So the NWO was so big, not only because it brings this like new, fresh coolness to wrestling. It's these guys who like are invaded the company.
Mm-hmm.
They bring in more members, so they bring in like Sean Waltman, who wrestled in WWE, who's also good friends with these guys, who wrestled as X-Pac. They bring in a whole bunch of members,
X-Pac, like Tupac,
but
but
X-Pac,
X-Pac. Okay.
yeah, he was the 1, 2, 3 kid for a while. Yeah,
So he was almost the 1 Pac, 2 Pac, 3 Pac, and then just.
the X-Pac.
But once 2 Pac, he couldn't do that, so he just said X-Pac.
Yeah. I'm not gonna.
Is it? But it's spelled like that, like PAC.
Yeah, X-PAC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. So the thing with the NWO is by all accounts, they got too many members too fast. They started just adding a whole bunch of people to the NWO.
Mm-hmm.
People that didn't necessarily always make sense or just weren't super big. And so it becomes this big thing with tons of members, right? And they have different offshoot groups of it within itself. You have the NWO Wolfpack. You have so all these different groups. So it kind of becomes this thing of almost just taking over its own self, like too big to even contain.
Okay.
So that is the one thing about factions and groups that people always kind of compare to. Bullet Club, they compare very similar, where it's this big thing and has all these little offshoots. Is there a point where they become too big?
Well, yeah, because then at that point, you're just a different group.
Yes.
So what's the point?
Yes. So that's the one thing about, and that's what we're kind of seeing now in current WWE is like, what point do you break these groups up before they become too big or before they become unmanageable?
Okay. So this is where all your predictions are coming in with some of these people stepping away or changing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because you definitely don't want to run a group or have a faction be a thing for too long.
Okay.
Where it's past its peak, or it just becomes like a parody of itself.
Now, I don't know if you would just know this off the top of your head or if it's even like it matters, but the current, or if you're going to talk about it later, the current factions, which one's like the longest running? Or are they like kind of, there's multiple?
I mean, of WWE right now, currently, Bloodline wasn't named Bloodline at first, but I mean, Roman Reigns really kind of started it in 2020, so it's been 4 years. Imperium, in some way, shape, or form, has been a loose faction for a long time because Gunther even had a group very similar to this when he was in the Independents with some of the same members and stuff, and those members have changed, but essentially it was a very similar type of group for a long, long time. But like in this indication, it's probably been 5 or 6 years, so it's probably the longest technically.
But like of like the name. So when it became a name, what's like the longest running?
I think Imperium, if I remember correctly, Imperium, Gunther started it when he was in NXT UK, which would have been like 2019, probably 2018, around there.
So not the LWO?
So LWO was an offshoot of NWO.
Okay.
And then it was just gone for a long time. And then it got brought back.
Okay, so it started way earlier, but it wasn't consistent.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So LWO was an offshoot of the NWO.
Okay.
Started by like Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, these luchadors of WCW.
Mm-hmm.
And then once WCW got bought out by WWE, which is what happened, it kind of just went away.
Wow.
And then eventually got brought back again, like we saw in last year, or 2022, 2023, whatever it was. So again, it's not been a consistent faction through this point.
Okay. But is there a current NWO, like in WWE?
No, they'll bring them back here and there, but hasn't been a consistent one since the early 2000s.
So the LWO made it then.
Yes,
They came back.
they came back.
NWO did not.
Yes.
Okay. But it doesn't mean they won't.
They've tried, but again, all of their members are old or retired. Like there hasn't been like younger new members.
Which is fine. I'm barely hanging on here.
Yes.
So
And that's why people kind of consider Bullet Club like the modern day version of it, because it took over the indie scene, all these different people. It's kind of lives on through different things. So that's what they consider. But there's not currently like a group that calls themselves the NWO.
okay. Good to know.
Yes. So we talk about the NWO being big for WCW.
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, WWE has to have an alternative,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what's their alternative to the NWO? D Generation X.
Oh, which I even know that because what do they even call that? Like the crotch chop or
The
something?
crotch chop. Yep,
We were all doing that way too young,
we were.
getting yelled at by teachers. Like there was no reason
Right.
for a bunch of little kids to be doing that. But yeah, even I know that. Like I
Yes.
couldn't tell you the members, but I
Well,
know them.
Good thing I'm here to tell you the members.
Oh,
So,
good. I mean, I have two right here, so that's cheating.
that's cheating.
For those watching on YouTube, it's behind us. But otherwise, you'll surprise me.
Yes, I hope so. So, DX started in like 97, 96, 97, right around there.
Little babies. We were babies.
Yes. So, founding members were Shawn Michaels and Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, again, some backstory between them. Shawn Michaels, Triple H, in real life, very good friends with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash.
Wow.
Yep.
Small world.
Yeah. So, and there's backstory behind that. But anyways, so when they leave and they start their own group, it kind of leaves these two friends to be by themselves, start their own group. So they start DX. So it's Shawn Michaels, Triple H. They bring in like an enforcer money guy called Rick Rude, who is a former wrestler from like the late 80s, early 90s,
Okay.
and China.
Oh, yeah. And China was like my favorite female back then.
Right. So they cause havoc. Obviously, their whole thing is to crop chop people and make crude jokes and,
Like be fun.
be fun. Exactly. And
cool.
in the 90s, that was not what WWE fans were used to, right? So it takes off like a storm. Like people love it because obviously, again, it influenced like the young teen market heavily.
Oh, yeah, it literally was like cool.
Yes. So it's cool to go around and say "suck it" and cross chop people and stuff.
Yeah, and like I said, we were like 6 years old doing stuff like that.
Yes.
We're in first, second grade.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
why wouldn't we?
no, of course, it's cool.
It is. It's still cool. I would still do it.
Yes. So then, when Shawn Michaels ends up having to retire the first time,
Mm-hmm.
Triple H, like essentially takes over the group, becomes the leader because it was Shawn, now it's Triple H, and he brings on two members called the New Age Outlaws. So it's Road Dogg and Billy Gunn.
Okay.
Who I know you don't know who they are either,
No.
but they're a tag team of the time. Billy Gunn still wrestles. He looks great. He's in AEW, but two members, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, and he also brings in former NWO member Sean Waltman, X-Pac.
Oh, okay. Oh, that makes sense.
Yep. So he's the first member to be part of the NWO and DX.
If you're gonna be DX, you should have X-Pac.
Yes.
That's just natural.
Yes. So they run rampant for a little bit, doing the same type of things. Eventually, Triple H makes it big on his own. They kind of break up. And eventually, in 2007, Triple H and Shawn Michaels have a reunion and bring it back. So that's where it kind of gets
Aw.
brought back in 2007.
That's
And that's
cute.
like where this Funko Pop figures are from.
Aw, I'm proud of them.
Yes. So that's kind of where WWE factions kind of come from, is DX, right? Like it's cool to be DX.
Oh, so that was like the first is it the first faction in general in WWE or like the first what you guys are like, oh, factions?
No, I mean it's definitely not even close to the first faction in WWE,
Okay.
but like it's like one of the cool ones. It really kicked off the Attitude Era. Kicked off this like we're gonna try to be cool to wrestling fans.
Okay.
There's other factions in WWE before that. One of them is a person you really like, Bret Hart. He had the Hart Foundation, which was basically him and his brother and his brother-in-laws all just
Like the Hart family.
yes, but they call it the Hart Foundation.
So, was it all like Hart, or were there others?
I mean, there's other members, but they generally, from my knowledge, like, I could be wrong, but from what I know of, they're all associated with the family somehow. So like, it was Bret Hart, his brother Owen, their brother-in-law Jim, their other brother-in-law, the British Bulldog. So it was all people who were associated with the Hart family.
So they were like the original bloodline,
Kind of. Yep.
but just I mean, they naturally is that their actual last name?
I think so. Yeah, I believe
So
so.
they just had a cool name,
Right.
and they were just like, well, we're the Hart. I mean, the Hart Foundation, great,
Yes.
but like, if they were like the family, they were kind of like the original bloodline.
They were kind of like the original bloodline.
Obviously, I'm not saying wrestling fans are like the bloodline. I'm saying in the sense that they're family.
Yes. So speaking of the bloodline, The Rock, the
Mm-hmm.
final boss, was also in a faction around this time in the late '90s,
Okay.
called the Nation of Domination.
Wow. I mean, these names, like, great. Is there like a generator for these names? Are they just that good at
Oh,
naming?
I mean, I'm sure there's just a WWE faction generator that we could probably create our own if we really wanted to.
We could probably like Google it,
Yeah.
and like, you know how it's like there's those ones. It's like, oh, the last thing you ate and like your color of your shirt or whatever is
Yes.
like your, certain names.
Mm-hmm.
But better, like they should have like a generator.
I'm sure they probably do. We could probably find one.
Nice. Or there's probably honestly somebody online who's like, here's your faction name.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So, again, I don't know a ton about it, but I just think it is interesting to let you because I'm sure you didn't even know that The Rock was part of a faction.
No, I mean, with you telling me this, it's not surprising if that was like the cool thing to do then. But also, I mean, it's like he's like bloodline now, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously I know they weren't there then. So yeah, I didn't know what he was part of. You could have said guess, and I would have never said that.
Yes. And so that was really probably the thing that kicked him off. He was Rocky Maivia. He joins the Nation of Domination, which is kind of like supposed to be like a Black Panther type group, kind of
Okay.
led by the former world champion named Farouk. Like, and then he really kind of breaks off and he stops being Rocky Maivia and he becomes The Rock.
Yeah, which I mean, both great names,
Yeah,
but I mean, like The Rock, you know.
right. So all that to be said that in the late '90s there is a lot of different types of factions. There's more that we're not even going to get into.
Well, I mean, there's a ton today, so that would
Yes,
take forever to go through all of them.
yes. There are a few more that I think is important to hit on though that are
Hmm.
really big. So one that kind of inspired a lot of things, and it's now by no means is it the first faction ever in wrestling, but like it definitely you can see influences in this faction and a lot of other modern day ones. Is the Four Horsemen?
Which I think you've talked about that, or like, when you do those little like quizzes, like what you know. I think like easily you were like, oh, the Four Horsemen, and you like name them.
Yes. So the Four Horsemen were in the '80s
Okay.
in the NWA, which is like a precursor to WCW. It was this old like one of the oldest running wrestling promotions.
Okay.
And it was led by Ole and Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, and Ric Flair.
Oh, okay, Ric Flair.
Yes,
But let me guess, he wasn't their leader for some reason.
he was.
Oh, okay, okay.
He was definitely their leader, but they really treated it as like kind of all equals, with him being obviously the leader, but like that was kind of like the thought is like they really lived like we're pro wrestlers. We like fancy cars. We like nice things, and we like to win championships. Gimmick.
Which, and once again, fantastic name.
Oh, for sure.
It only would be stupid if you're going to tell me there was a fifth member at some point.
I mean, they had a manager who was like,
Yeah,
but not
but that's
really.
fine.
They also had members who went in and out throughout the years. Obviously, when you span like
Yes.
15 years, like they did, like they have different members who go in and out.
But did they like keep the four,
I
or were there times they
I
had
think they
three or
did,
more?
but
Okay.
again, I'm not super well versed in the Four
Okay.
Horsemen. I just know that they spanned quite a long time in NWA and WCW and a lot of other territories, and it really helped like pick up the feuds for Ric Flair. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like he's a very good bad guy. He feuded with the likes of Dusty Rhodes. Like a lot of really good baby faces fought against the Four Horsemen.
Okay. Cool.
So that brings us though to another group that I want to talk about, that also had Ric Flair in it, and also had Triple H of DX in it. That's Evolution.
Which that one I've heard about either from you or I've seen like
Right.
Evolution, but once again, no
Evolution.
idea.
Evolution is a mystery.
Is that like their thing?
That's like the starting words of their theme song.
That's what I mean. Like that's like
Yeah.
their thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Evolution started by Triple H in the early-ish to early 2000s, probably 2002, 2003, around that. So it was Triple H and Ric Flair, and they brought in two young up-and-coming stars in Randy Orton and Batista.
Wow, what a team.
Yes. So the whole goal of Evolution essentially was to keep the World Championship around Triple H.
Okay.
So throughout this time, it's not like you have the current day champion in Triple H, the past champion in Ric Flair, and two future champions in Batista and Randy Orton.
Which, and I mean, they didn't even know
Right.
the future champions they had there.
Yes, and that's it. Like the point of it was that hey, they picked people who are gonna like, they saw talent in them. What can they do?
Yeah, they're gonna be something.
Right. So from that group, that's kind of if you ever hear wrestling fans talk of the Reign of Terror, that's this is kind of the time they consider because Triple H essentially just like continued to stay champion and continued to just have the same type of match with different opponents. He just kept winning and kept cheating, and wrestling fans don't consider it to be the best time, but even though they do like Evolution.
Okay. Was it just because he like kept winning, or like what did people not like about that time?
Yeah, a lot of they felt it was kind of stale. There wasn't like fresh people coming on board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because obviously we've seen long reigning champions currently. They
Right.
both lost at WrestleMania, but do they say the same thing about them or no? This was just like not done well.
No, I think people thought a lot of times back then that like Triple H, was married to Stephanie McMahon, and maybe he was just using his marriage to keep him the champion. Yeah, a lot of what you'd probably call haters.
Like yeah, they were haters. They were like, oh, nepotism or whatever.
Yes.
But they're just hating.
Yes.
I mean, people love to hate the champion.
They do. I mean, also, I see, again, I wasn't really a fan at this time. I kind of started watching a little bit after, but I see where maybe things got a little stale at times.
Well, and they were bad, the group then.
Yes.
So, I mean, obviously, probably not always, but it does seem like they really like the bad guy to hold those championships. Like, it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, the stories generally in wrestling is the stories in the chase.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a heel champion, the story's always better to see the babyface try to win it. It's the chase to get to the title.
Okay. I mean, I like this whole idea that, the bad guy keeps it because they are the best.
Right.
They speak the best and they are the best.
Yes. And you've seen Triple H now. You see how he talks.
Oh, fantastic.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if anyone's noticed this. The way he holds the microphone. If it's probably something that most people don't even pay attention
like this,
to. Yeah.
I don't even know if I can do it right.
He holds it like he's never held a microphone, but at the same time, it's like so cool. It's like it's almost like a power move.
Yes.
So yeah, he's just good.
He doesn't need to hold a microphone the same way everybody else does.
Well, it's like, yeah, like he just said, like if I hold it normal, what am I gonna look like?
Right.
Like lame? No, so he's like, I'm gonna hold it how I hold it.
Right.
And so I just want to point that out because I noticed that right away.
You did.
And there's probably wrestling fans that are like, okay, why are you even paying attention to the mic?
And I've never noticed it, so I'm gonna have to go back and look at his old promos and see if he used to do it too, or if that's just a new thing.
Or if it's just because this is like his era.
Yes.
And so he said, I have to do something.
Yes.
Besides just making it like a new era.
Right. So I don't know. That's interesting. I want to look into it.
Yeah, because just side note.
Yes.
I love it.
So with Evolution, though, getting back to that, the first like crack in the Evolution group was when Randy Orton. Ooh.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. When Randy Orton became world champion. So Randy Orton wins the world title, and obviously Triple H is not happy because he should be world champion.
So did he take it from him at that time?
He didn't.
Okay.
He took it from a person who shall not be named in wrestling, Chris Benoit.
Oh, okay. I was like, who?
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
He took it from Chris Benoit.
Okay.
So there's an infamous moment where Randy wins it, and then the next day on Raw, he's celebrating with Evolution. They're in the ring. They're all like celebrating, having a good time. Batista puts him on his shoulders. Triple H gives him the thumbs up, and then the thumbs down, and Batista drops him.
And he drops him.
Yes.
Oh, love it. Yeah.
Infamous moment. They try to really start kick off Randy Orton's single career.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really work. because they're trying to push Randy Orton as a good guy, babyface.
And I'm sorry, he's just a bad guy. And it's
Yes.
great. He should be. He's great at it. His everything.
Yes. So it's kind of a dud. Doesn't really work.
Okay.
Evolution's still kind of around. They then kick off Batista's run, where he's breaking off from the group, and he becomes a babyface, and that works. Batista becomes
Yeah.
an excellent good guy, and Evolution's no more.
Wow, they said, "You guys brought us in here. You guys gave us our platform. Peace."
Yep.
Nice.
Yes.
Wow. These traitor. What I'm hearing is that there's a lot of traitor action.
There might be, there might be.
I feel like they make the factions just to have traitors. That's what I'm feeling.
I mean, you make the faction to eventually be broken up.
Yeah, by traitors.
I don't know if I call traitors,
Except Randy. I really like Randy. But Batista. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of Batista then, but
Yes.
Randy can do whatever he wants.
Randy can do whatever he wants, including start his own group.
Oh, amazing.
So in like 2007, 2008, Randy Orton decides to start his own group, and his group is going to consist of all people who are children of wrestlers, right? Because he's a children of wrestlers.
Oh, is he?
Yes, he's his dad was Cowboy Bob Orton, who fought like WrestleMania 1. He fought against Hulk Hogan. Like,
Did he wear a cowboy hat?
he did wear a cowboy
Oh
hat.
my gosh, that's amazing. And like boots?
In boots, yeah.
Wow.
I know. You never think that a wrestling cowboy would.
Okay, but listen, there's some wrestlers that have names and it's like, well, they don't do that.
Yeah.
So like you could have been like, no, he didn't. And I would have actually been I'm more surprised that he did, to be honest.
I mean, that's true. That makes sense. But yeah, he did wrestle in a cowboy hat and boots.
Like, oh, so like he like wore the cowboy hat.
No, not while you wrestled. No, just for his entrance.
Man, he should have. I mean, it would have came off.
It would have came off for sure.
But like, how fun.
Yes.
Or like, those little kid ones that have the strap.
So, anyways, Randy
Uh-huh.
Orton's a son of a wrestler. He wants to get this group together of other kids of wrestlers.
Okay.
So he recruits a wrestler by the name of Ted DiBiase Jr.
Which you've said that name.
Yes, so his dad's the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
Okay, maybe that's the one I know more
Yes.
than. Okay.
So he recruits Ted DiBiase Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And he needs another son of a famous wrestler. Can you guess who that son of a famous wrestler might be?
The Rock?
No, not The Rock. He might be an American Nightmare.
Oh, so his dad was the American Dream.
Yes.
And he was the Nightmare. Okay.
So this is when Cody first debuts. He always only been around in wrestling, like actually wrestling for a few years, maybe not even a few full years, a few months probably at this point. So he recruits Cody Rhodes.
Nice. Okay.
So it's Randy Orton, Ted DiBiase Jr., and Cody Rhodes, and they form Legacy.
Oh, I mean, it's like it's a basic name, but for what they're doing,
Yes.
good name.
Yes. And so again, the thought is like, let's get Randy Orton the title. They're going to help him keep it. Well, he also helps these young, because Ted DiBiase is also young in the business, these young kids in the business to kind of stay champion.
Now, question. Now, this is probably besides Cody, because people be like, no. Were they like better than their parents at wrestling? Or is that like a debate?
I mean, Randy Orton has definitely done more than his father, so I would assume, and he's regarded as one of the best wrestlers in the world.
Yes.
So he's definitely, I would say, better than Bob Orton.
But I mean, we obviously like Dusty Rhodes. Like
Right.
people probably wouldn't say one's, well, they probably would, but like they probably don't like to say one's better than the other.
Yeah. Ted DiBiase Jr. definitely not as good as his dad.
Ooh, sorry.
Yes.
I mean, his dad's name was the $1 Million Man.
Yes.
And his name's just Ted
Ted
DiBiase.
DiBiase.
Like, you didn't even try. Like, at least Cody was like, well, my dad's the American Dream. I'm the American Nightmare.
I mean, yeah, it did take Cody a long time to figure that out. Like, he didn't just debut as the American Nightmare.
No, but like he eventually did.
Yes.
So he could be like, well, I'm like the $1 trillion man.
Not the $1 trillion man. You'd want to go straight from million to trillion, skip the billion.
I mean, if you're going to go for it,
Yeah.
yeah, you should go all out. I mean,
Yeah.
unless he was planning on having a kid too. So then if he was like, well, I'm going to have a kid in wrestling, my dad will be the million, I'll be the billion, my son will be the trillion.
Yeah.
But you can't plan that far.
No, he could just be like the gajillion dollar man.
Well, but that's like his however many great grandkids down.
Yeah.
I mean,
He could just be like the $100 man.
well, I mean, if you say he's not as good as his dad, then maybe he was the $100 man.
Oh,
I mean, was
gosh.
he that much worse? Would he be the $1,000 man or the $100
I mean,
man?
I don't know. When I was a kid, I liked Legacy. I liked all of them. I don't know if any of them were better, but just historically speaking, not as good as his dad.
Like if I put it out to like a wrestling Reddit, They would let me know.
Yes, they would definitely let
Okay, I'll get back to you guys on that.
you know. Yes, for sure. So throughout there, there's a few other members that add and stuff, and eventually break up,
Okay,
as all groups do. You know,
of course.
they even at one point added a member named Manu, who is part of the Samoan dynasty.
How dare he?
Yes, I don't know that he even wrestles anymore, really,
Well,
but
was he the son of somebody too then?
yes,
That makes sense. Yeah.
yes, he was the son of. I honestly don't remember who, but one of the bigger Samoan dudes who wrestled.
Which, yeah, great.
Yeah. Um. So that group breaks up. Obviously, Randy Orton kind of comes out on top of there. Other members do other things, and that's kind of where we're at.
Okay.
So
But because Randy's not currently in a group.
he is not currently in a group.
Oh, sorry, faction?
Faction. No.
Stable.
Stable.
I
Yeah.
said stable. But see, that's what I'm saying. It's confusing, isn't it?
It's not confusing. Just stay right.
I said it. But see, you thought I said staple. So we should probably just drop that. We'll just do factions and
Faction.
groups.
Okay. So Randy Orton's not currently in a faction. You know.
Okay.
There's obviously a million other factions. You know.
Of course.
There's a couple notable ones like the Nexus, which started out as like groups of younger wrestlers, a group of younger wrestlers who attacked John Cena and CM Punk.
Oh,
Or not
wow.
CM Punk, sorry. John Cena, Randy Orton. Excuse me.
Okay.
John Cena, Randy Orton.
Wow.
I believe it might have been CM Punk. I actually don't remember who it was. Now that I think about it, I think it was Randy Orton. But anyways,
That's okay. I'm impressed. You know a lot more than me, obviously.
yes. But that group eventually became to be led by CM Punk. So, right, changes throughout the years. There's one more big group that we probably need to talk about, and this is where, for me personally, I do think that they're more of a stable than a group than a faction, because this is only 3 members,
Okay.
but it's the Shield.
Which you've talked about the Shield.
Yes.
Wait, so would you call Imperium a stable then? Because
I
there are
would
only 3?
also consider.
Well, I mean, I don't
personally,
know. After Monday Night Raw, they
it
might be
just
2.
a duo.
But anyway.
I would personally consider us as a 3 or less a stable, not a faction. But again, it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
The scheme of things, it doesn't really
Like,
matter.
I wouldn't go and be like, oh, yeah, I love that faction. And somebody will look at me and be like, stable?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, nobody would do that to you. Like,
If I started doing that to other people, what would they feel like?
I mean, you'd be a bully. So,
Which, naturally, I don't know if you're seeing a trend, but like, would they almost be like impressed or just mad?
probably just like annoyed.
Okay, never mind. I won't do that.
Yeah, so don't do that. So, before we kind of move on, what do you know about the Shield?
Um, well, there's agents of it in Marvel.
Okay, wrong Shield. Wrong Shield.
Your shield, I know nothing. Unless they literally came out with a shield, which would be really cool.
They did not.
Okay, then why are they called the shield?
Do you know the members of the Shield at least?
No, because I think you've talked about it. Well, here's the thing. You've probably told me, but I
told
wasn't
you.
listening in the past.
So, all right. The Shield consists of 3 members.
Okay.
Dean
So stable.
Yes, Dean Ambrose.
Okay, definitely heard that name.
Yep. He is currently wrestling. He's currently the New Japan World Champion. He
Okay.
wrestles as Jon Moxley in AEW.
Are either his actual name?
No.
I didn't think so. Anyway, go ahead.
I don't think so, at least, actually. Anyways, another member of the Shield is Seth Rollins.
Oh, you said. Oh, wait. I know who the other shield member was.
Who is it then?
Cody Rhodes.
Nope.
What? I thought you said that.
Roman Reigns.
Oh, that's it. No. I knew that. I knew that.
Yeah.
You're right. They used to. But wait. But they were like a tag team.
They were a trio.
But see, you didn't tell me this extra one.
Yes. So they were a trio.
Okay, that's right. But jeez, I feel like there's so much.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much.
So there were a trio, the 3 of them: Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns.
Do you know what? I did know this. I remember this because during WrestleMania, you're like, oh my gosh, that's Seth wearing his Shield stuff. And you're like, oh, that's messed up because,
Yes.
that was Roman. That was kind of rude of him then.
Yeah. Well, it did on purpose. So the Shield was a group that they created
Okay.
to, there's a long story of why they created it and all this stuff. But anyways, they became a really dominant, stable
Okay.
faction, whatever you want to call it, group.
Mhm. Trio.
Trio. Yep. They, Dean Ambrose was kind of thought to be like the breakout star because he was the really good talker of the group.
He was a good talker?
He was.
Even over Seth?
At the
Freaking
time,
Rollins?
at the time, yes.
Okay.
But again, they're very young in their careers at this time, like in their
Okay.
WWE careers. They've all been wrestling Dean and Seth wrestled on the Indies for a long time,
Okay.
but young in their WWE careers. So he wins like the U.S. Championship. Seth and Roman win the tag titles.
Yeah, see, that's right. They were a tag team.
Yes, but all 3 acted as a group.
Okay.
They eventually go on to feud with the newly reformed Evolution. So
Okay.
Triple H brings back Batista and Randy Orton, and they fight the Shield.
And they win.
Uh, so there's some back and forth, right, about wins and
Yes, of
stuff.
course.
There's a moment on Raw where everybody knows somebody's going to be turning on the Shield. Like one of the Shield members is going to turn bad because they're good
Okay.
at this point. Everybody assumes it's going to be Roman Reigns.
Yes.
He's the big man. He doesn't talk that much. Like he's going to be like he's perfect to fit in this Evolution group, right? Of these big dudes.
But let me guess. It was Seth.
It was Seth,
Yeah, it makes sense.
and it was his betrayal of the Shield
Mm-hmm.
that you kind of link the fall of Roman Reigns and like this whole bloodline story. That like that's why they say Seth's kind of responsible for it because he betrays him, betrays the Shield, and from there kind of it brings on this whole storyline.
And Roman says, I'm not playing with this anymore. I'll get my family. Little did he know they're traitors too. But he said, I'm going to deal with that. And then it was like poetic because at WrestleMania, here comes Seth and the Shield stuff again in
Yes,
order to,
and that's why it distracts Roman so much.
because he said, I know that.
Yes,
And then, wow, he let him down twice.
it only takes like from the time the Shield gets betrayed to the time Roman creates the bloodline, it's only like 5 years. So
5 years?
I don't know if it's exactly 5 years, but it's a long time.
Oh my gosh,
They
you said it moves slow. You're right.
Roman Reigns. Well, they tried to make Roman Reigns a good guy
Yes.
for that long.
It
He
didn't
never.
work.
It never works. He comes back as a bad guy, creates the bloodline.
And fantastic.
Right, but it's the origin point they kind of all pointed to is the Shield breaking up and Seth Rollins turning on him.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Seth seems like a traitor.
Yes. So
And a good talker now. I did not know he wasn't the best talker then.
I mean, he was a bad talker, but Dean Ambrose was just seen as somebody who was just so much more.
Yeah, you're gonna have to show me a Dean Ambrose, because what?
I will show you Dean Ambrose and yeah, show you what people saw in him
Yeah,
and what people still
because
see because he's still, even though you don't watch it, he's still like essentially leading AEW. He's one of those people that is
Mhm.
is a staple of AEW, not a staple of AEW.
Yes, that. See, you see where it's a little confusing.
You
There's
see
so
where-
many words here.
So, but I think that really kind of takes it full circle from current Bloodline, Judgment Day, Bullet Club, back to the NWO, and into the Shield and how we got the Bloodline.
So yeah, what you're telling me is factions just constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
And then these people leave, and then they're like, just kidding, I want to be back in a faction. So they go to a different one, maybe the same one. And it's just this like revolving door.
Yes. 9 out of 10 times, factions are created to break up.
Which, I mean, yeah, you have to have like a storyline.
Right.
I mean, but do they do that with like tag teams too, right? Because a tag team doesn't necessarily mean they're part of a faction.
Correct. Like, you can be a tag team without being part of a faction. Like, New Day might be a staple because there's 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Big E's hurt now, but there's 3 of them. But, like, DIY is just DIY, just the 2 of them.
So whoever in WWE wanted this, they said, you know what? That story of Julius Caesar and Brutus, that's like the best story ever.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, this is what I always want.
Yeah.
And then they were like, but how do we do it? Well, they have to be in some kind of group or something.
Yep.
And so that's their whole inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it said that, like, all media is Shakespeare?
And obviously it is, but like I said, whoever came up with this in WWE said that's the best one.
Best, that's the best storyline.
They said betrayal, which, I mean, let's be real. On like soap operas, dramas, I mean, even like current day, it's all this reality TV.
Mm-hmm.
The best moments are the betrayals.
Correct.
Wow. They got it. That perfect little formula.
So now you know more, hopefully. You understand this formula. You understand where my predictions come from a lot of times.
Yeah, and this helps me because now I'm going to be like, oh, well, that's obviously what's going to happen.
Right.
And so maybe one day my predictions will overtake your predictions and I'll get more tallies than you.
You can imagine, you can hope, you can dream.
But see, when you teach me, it's going to happen.
I'm going to teach you everything you know, but not everything I know.
Oh, well, I'll just start doing research.
You could. Or you could just too sweet me. You can just too sweet me
No,
right now. Too sweet
because
me.
no,
Too sweet me.
I won't do it. Especially now. You shouldn't tell me that.
Too sweet me, brother.
You shouldn't tell me it was stolen. I will not use somebody else's stuff. It's not fair.
Well, I'm going to get you to do it one day.
Are you also going to betray me one day?
No, of course not. That would never happen.
Well, If that's what we're doing, we have to. I
Well,
mean, let's be real though. If we were in a group, I'm the betrayer.
yes, you're the bad guy. So you're gonna turn on me and create your own group.
Yeah, which is fantastic. I just have to get a name.
Yeah, because you have to figure that out. You can't just take Judgment Day or Bloodline or Bullet Club. Those are all taken.
Yeah, because I don't steal things, so
Yeah,
I obviously wouldn't. I need my own.
have to Google the name generator. You know.
There has to be one,
Yeah,
hands down.
yeah,
If I had like my phone, I would look it up. But
yeah.
hands down, there's a name generator. Maybe we'll do that. I'll put it out there,
We should do that one day. That'd be good.
and then you guys can vote on which name is better
Mm-hmm.
and which group you think is going to be
And who
better.
should turn on who? Maybe.
Oh, everybody knows. It would be if it was you, they'd be like, yeah,
Yeah.
don't like it.
Well, with us talking about betrayals and stuff, I think it'd be interesting to see where some of these storylines go next week with the draft. Who's gonna maybe turn on who? Who's still gonna be part of a faction?
Well, and that's the thing. So with the draft, do they split the factions? And if they do, are they no longer a faction?
So they typically do split factions.
So you'll have the same faction on both.
No, no, no. Like they'll stop being a faction.
Oh, okay.
There are times, very rare, where they've had like people represent the faction on different brands. That's pretty rare. So
Okay.
like, what example would be like Big E split from the New Day. They were still kind of the New Day, even though they're on different shows. But that's pretty rare.
Okay. So things are getting shaken up. That it really explains like this last Monday's Raw, and even the stuff going on in SmackDown.
Yes.
They are splitting these people up so they can literally separate them on shows.
Yes, and it'll start this Friday, and this go from Friday to Monday, and we'll get to talk about it next week.
Yes, because I'm still sad that my Raw team is getting split up. And you already got me. I've been watching SmackDown now for a few weeks.
Yep.
I'm going to have to continue watching it. But that's my little Raw family. I want them together.
Well, now that you have a new family and probably some new factions.
My guess is that all my favorite people are going to SmackDown.
At least some.
No, it's just my luck. It's just my luck. So I'm expecting it. I've I've accepted it, and I'm not ready, but I'll get there.
Well, we'll definitely discuss that next week then.
Yeah. So if I'm sad next week, you already know why.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And if I'm happy, then it's because some of my predictions might have come true. So
Yes. So we'll see. Mine will come true for sure, but we'll talk about yours too, and we'll discuss that next week.
let's do it.
Let's do it. Let us know what you think about this episode. Let us know about our factions, and we'll see y'all next week.
Thank you guys for watching.
Too sweet me.
Not doing it. Okay. One too sweet.
I love wrestling.
I know.